hauled out of my other meeting to be out here, and I definitely think it has been a privilege and a wonderful time well spent here. So I'll just get into the general evaluations, and I'm sure you probably, or you already are familiar with general evaluations. You must have had, this is your third meeting?
So, yeah, this is the third meeting, and I would request you to call all the evaluators as part of your general evaluation.
All right,
so
excellent.
The speech evaluator as well as the timer are counted grammarian.
Super.
And we've not had the opportunity to, I guess, listen to the joke master, so if you could at some stage invite the joke master as well. Thank you.
We'll definitely invite the humor stick or the humor bone, all right? And so it's probably your third meeting, and everything must be absolutely new to you about Toastmasters. But I'll just give you a little background about what Toastmasters is, and the need for general evaluation, and why do we have such things at the Toastmasters meetings. Now, we've all heard of a very, very fine gentleman whose name is Warren Buffett. Yes. A master investor, a very shrewd and intelligent human being. And the only certificate that he has at his house or his office is a certificate by the Toastmasters that awarded him the best speaker. In 2018, he was at a college inauguration where he mentioned that if there was any one skill that I am willing to put my money on today, would be public speaking. And he's not alone in this particular department. If you go through the biographies of at least 95% of the very successful people, either in tech, in business, in politics, or any field, to a very large extent, they are very genetically built to be great public speakers. It could also be the infamous and sometimes notorious Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and the other likes in the fraternity that have a lot of money. So he said that 50% of your skills is done if you are a great public speaker. Nothing is impossible. Sometimes I get a lot of people very politely and very kindly complimenting me on my accent. Some people think it's an accent that I've probably developed because I stayed in the US for a while or in the UK for a while. But I'll tell you something, this accent was developed in a small little village back in Bihar where no one else speaks English. Now, you must be wondering why and how. Anything is possible. We just heard a speech on impossible is nothing. The only thing that we don't focus on is the matter at hand. I've been to many Toastmaster meetings, and I'm not saying that we aren't enthusiastic about our Toastmaster meetings. What I'd like to add on to your enthusiasm is to make the presence or your attendance more focus-built. And if you do that, then there's nothing like this particular platform that cannot propel you like a fighter pilot's ejection system into some stratosphere that you've dreamed of, say maybe 5 years, 4 years, or probably even lesser than that. So while I was going through the entire meeting today, I can completely understand the sense of nervousness that you have, probably because it's your third meeting. Similarly, the sense of excitement along with that, slight confusion, and some other questions that you might have about how this entire system rolls out. But there's only one thing that you definitely will benefit from any Toastmaster meeting or congregation, is that your skills will become better. And it is very important to take each job very, very seriously. So you must have gone through the election process right now, which I was also a part of with you, each role is extremely, extremely important. These are roles that club officers have to demonstrate irrespective of conditions. You are very fortunate that you're in a very insulated environment here at a corporate place where you don't have to worry, just like Ajay mentioned, you don't have to worry about space, you don't have to worry about logistics, etc., etc. But in a community club that I head at GST, we've got to worry about something all the time. For example, this Saturday, we won't be having our meeting at a regular venue because it's Janmashtami. And so I call up a friend of mine who's the VP marketing at one of the real estate companies out here, and he very gladly, just 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour back, informed me that his conference room is okay for us to use this particular Saturday between 2:30 and 4:30. All right? General evaluation, coming back to this topic, is that it's very, very important. Earlier, the entire concept was that please tell him good things and all the good things. That would encourage him. But real people who are made of metal and stone, mentally and physically, are those people that need to be tempered all the time. Which means that you've got to criticize them, and there's something known as critiquing. Anybody heard the word critiquing? All right. So critiquing is the act of constructively telling somebody that there is an opportunity for you to become better. And this, if done wisely, in a very supportive and conducive environment like yours, can make anybody a great speaker. Okay? So that's that. The other things that I would like to say is that evaluations need to be regular, need to be consistent, and continuous. We all must have gone through at some point in time, you are in a consulting business, something known as continuous improvement. You must have gone through Six Sigmas and Kaizens and etc., FEMA, DMAC. You've heard of these terms? Yeah. It all boils down to one thing: continuous improvement. All right? The other thing about general evaluation is that it continuously helps you to sharpen the saw. Have you read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Mm-hmm. Some of you have? All right, great. So there are 7 habits that we need to cultivate as per Stephen Covey. The 7th, of course, is the most important. Why is it important? Is because there was a woodcutter who was asked to cut wood, and there was another woodcutter who was asked to cut wood again. So there were 2 people there, and both were given a day's time to cut the wood. So one person took his saw and he kept sharpening it for half the time that the other person was cutting the wood. But by the time he started cutting his wood, he had finished much before than the other person could finish. The reason is that the tool has to be absolutely sharp. When we're talking about Toastmasters, your tool is language. You could speak in Hindi as well, but that's not the environment here. So there are places where you can become great orators in Hindi. But in this particular instance, because it's a corporate environment, it would be very encouraging for you as an individual, as well as a participant among other members, to continuously improve your English language. Why? Because if you got a level better, then the other person attending the meeting along with you would be able to step up to that particular level. For example, if you're living in a high-rise and you're on the 6th floor and somebody builds the 7th floor, you have the opportunity to see the skyline much better from a greater height. And if somebody built it till the 15th floor, you'd be able to see, or you'd be able to get a panoramic view of the entire Gurgaon. Now, isn't that better? Yeah. Same is the case with you. So each participant that comes here must come here with a resolve of evaluation, self-evaluation, that when I go to a meeting at the Toastmasters, I am going to be better than the version I was at my last meeting. Okay, so enough of Gyan, all right, for today. But the most important thing is sharpening the saw. And sharpening the saw is really the evaluation section of any Toastmasters meeting. It allows you to understand which spark, or which spoke, or which teeth of your saw is not sharp enough. And you've got to sharpen that. And if you do that, you'll come back a better version in the next meeting. So, this particular section, what we do is that the general evaluator cannot evaluate the entire meeting by himself, so he's helped to evaluate the meeting with supplementary role players, or they're also known as sometimes auxiliary role players. What do auxiliary role players do? They come here and assist the general evaluator, and the auxiliary roles are the timing, the arc counting, and the grammarian. Now the grammarian has a very important role because the grammarian gives you a word of the day which you are supposed to use. In our particular case, you need to be unfettered, and that's the sign, absolutely. You need to be unfettered as an individual when you come to a Toastmasters meeting, and leave all the fetters outside and all the shackles outside, so you come here uninhibited and you have the ability to speak to anybody. Probably a crowd like you, I've never seen you before in the world. I don't even know you. I couldn't have even perceived or imagined in the likeliness of somebody existing like you. You probably didn't do that for me as well. So to go anywhere and have the ability to speak is what the Toastmasters gives you. It's like Harry Potter's wand, but this is a speaking wand. You become a wordsmith. All right? So I'm assisted by the tag team, which is the timer, the R counter, and the grammarian. Some meetings they also have what is known as the joke master. Some meetings also have something known as the harp master, so that that every member is paying attention to the meeting or to the speeches. So the harp master comes here. Have you heard of the harp master?
No, I haven't.
All right.
The listener role is what you're talking about, or?
Okay, you put it here? Okay, so yeah, like the listener. So the listener, the heart master, is the person who pays attention to all the speeches or at the meeting, and they come here and they ask volunteers, they ask questions so that the volunteers can answer, and those questions are related to all the speeches that you get. So you must have probably, if you were to probably give a speech on research and present, and you researched and presented a speech on, say, Shivaji, and you went through dates and battles and wars, etc. So the heart master would ask you a question related to that to see if you were paying attention. Excellent. And then you also have something known as a parliamentarian. Now I'm going to be helping you with that. Certain things that you would want to discourage yourself from doing. First is to walk in and out when somebody is speaking. It's the most, what should I say, discouraging or inappropriate activity because that person is probably shaking at the knees, isn't it? Forgot their thoughts, yeah? And then you distract the person by coming in or going out. So we need to discourage ourselves from that particular activity, parliamentarian's role. The other thing is to have your phones on silent. If you do have it on silent, it is mandatory to have it on silent without the vibration. Because even if you have it on silent and it vibrates, that's worse than having it on volume. Because it goes on like cicada. You know what cicada? Anybody done biology or botany? You probably wouldn't know what cicada is, right? It's an insect that has a very irritating sound, just like your buzzing phone. No? You can look it up on the dictionary. It's S-E-C-A-D-A, cicada. All right. So to avoid cross-talking when somebody is speaking. Please shake the hands. All right. When you come here, I know you're completely overwhelmed and flustered by your nervousness, but when you come here, please shake hands with the Toastmaster or whoever's here at the stage. Clap. Please clap with a lot of energy. Clap with a lot of energy. I believe it increases your heart rate, it helps in your cardio, and it does many other things for you, mentally and physically. So keep doing that. It's a part of the Toastmasters activity, applause. And the more you do it, the better you get. Please use the stage. All right? So you'll slowly grow into it. You definitely participate in what Ajay mentioned is that area contests, and then division contests, and then district contests, etc., and stuff like that. So you'll definitely understand how to use the stage. There are 9 pins here. There's 1, 2, 3 there, times 3. Use it in any direction you want and use it to your advantage. The timer's visibility is very important for a meeting. So it would be very, very good of you if you could have sat at the back there. All right? So try and encourage that activity in your meetings. Sit there so that people can see. What happens sometimes is that when the speaker is speaking, and if they get attracted to you and get conscious by the cards, then they start focusing in this area to see that they aren't exceeding their time. So that's that. Yeah. So symbol sitting in the wrong place, but that's all right. This is an election meeting. All right. What happens normally in a Toastmasters meeting that everybody sits this side? There's only one person speaking from this side. So it looks slightly distracting for you. But anyway, today is an exception. Today is election day, so symbol can sit there. All right. But otherwise, in other meetings, it'll be good to pay attention to that. So everybody sits this side, and you just have the speaker out here. Even the person who, like for example, the Toastmaster handed over the stage to me, he would hand the stage over to me and then go back to his place, and so would I. I would hand the stage over to somebody else and go back to my place. Alrighty, so that's there. Excellent. So now what happens is that we get into that section, which I'm sure you have probably become familiar by now, is that we take the reports from our auxiliary role players, and before we do that, we'll give the joke master an opportunity to bring out some smiles in us. And who is that?
Mukesh.
Mukesh. Are we here? All right, good.